1, 2, 3, 4.
Beautiful. You know, I don't know if I've ever heard Building the Low Ground played out of open F. That's a little odd. And that's a great intro from my friend, Mr. Jed Clark. Good to have you, buddy.
Good to be here, Ben.
It's your first time in the cabin.
Yeah.
But I've actually been a fan of your playing for a long time.
Oh, very cool.
I finally got a chance to meet you, and you've been gracious to come over and spend some time with me. But we've got to clear something up. Though we both love guitar picking, we've got a lot of other common interests. We're not kin.
No, I've been asked that for so many years. That's like one of the first questions I get asked is, "Oh yeah, you're Jed Clark. Are you related to Ben?" And I'm like, well, not that I know of.
I get it too. Although you're from Arkansas, I'm from Northeast Texas, so it's possible. Yeah, I need to ask my grandparents. Well, yeah, I need to ask around.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're happy to have Jed. What we're going to talk about today is Jed's approach to playing, which is very, very unique, as demonstrated by the fiddle tune that we just played. And so today we're going to talk about playing in open positions, not using a capo, particularly out of an E position. We're going to spend a lot of time in today. This is something that you've thought about a lot, isn't it?
I've spent a lot of time really focusing on how to capitalize on the natural voice of the guitar.
Oh man, that's beautiful stuff. If you're watching here on the website, you have everything you need as a GoPeak member right here on this page. Just scroll down and access the tabs, MP3s, and rest of the video segments. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, here in a moment, I'll invite you over to banjobenclark.com. You can check out the rest of this very intense, robust, packed lesson with my new brother from another mother, Mr. Jed Clark. All right, let's jump into this one. So a lot of pickers don't even know where to start if they're trying to play a solo out of an open E position. I think we get in habits of being based out of G, being based out of C, being based out of D. And one of the reasons why we're used to playing on those keys is because it's easier because of all the open strings. But what are we dealing with when we begin playing out of open E position in that regard?
Well, really and truly, I think it's just as easy to approach E.
Okay.
Because it does have a lot of open string real estate too. Now, the thing that trips a lot of folks up is, playing that open G string, you generally want to have that major sound, so if you don't, it doesn't quite fit that major happy feel, Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of awesome things you can do in the key of E. Something that I've spent a lot of time doing is finding ways to use the E, and B strings. Mm-hmm. And there's beautiful ways to do that with the natural voice of the guitar, like when you're playing in A and you're playing out of an E position, and
yeah, I want to talk more about that when we get into the rhythm, because when I observe you playing rhythm out of open E, there's not a lot of closed bar chords that you're doing, which I would maybe think about trying to do, but you're getting those open strings ringing whenever you can.
Yeah, whenever
and you're doing
possible.
that because, not necessarily because it's easier to play or it fits your hand better, but you're wanting that particular sound.
Yeah, it adds a unique voice to the guitar, and one that I think, particularly in bluegrass music, doesn't get used enough. Like playing a C minor and having that open E, that's beautiful. Playing a B and having those open bottom strings, it's just such a unique voice to the instrument.
Right. Whenever you think about soloing, let's talk about some licks first.
Okay.
Are you thinking about playing down low, open? For instance, if you were in G, you're thinking about open strings and playing those licks. Are you thinking that same way in E, or are you thinking about getting two positions up the neck?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Both. So like, in E you can go and play out of an open E position. Or, a lot of the times I'll end up moving into something like So like that's basically a C position.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick, because sometimes I think if we think about it in those terms, it cracks the code a little bit. Because a lot of guys will be comfortable in a C position, and they'll be comfortable to play those licks. But if we were to take that C position and just move it up 3 frets, you're now
In E flat.
In E flat. Go up 4 frets. Sorry. Let's see how good you are. If we move it up 4 frets, then we've taken that C position, and now we're playing an E chord, and we can think about those same fret uses. For instance, what I like to think about is that my nut has just moved up to the 4th fret.
Right.
And so these licks that are now here.
Yep.
The same position, same spacing. I just mentally imagine the nut moving up to the 4th fret, and now I'm having to cover with my index finger what my nut would cover down here in open C.
Exactly. You're playing C licks, but you're just using your first finger to make sure that you're not,
Right. Yeah. So whenever you have those open strings, then you just need to cover them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In that Ginseng Sullivan kickoff that you did on the record, and folks need to go buy that record. There's information. Yeah, there's information here on where you can get that. But you start out down low, and then you transition up to a new position, and that's the position that you go to.
Yeah, I get into that C position. So all that is...
That's a C position just moved up 4 frets. Now, how did you transition from your low E position? Because people might be comfortable down here, but they don't know how perhaps to get up. How did you do that?
That's a great question. So, from being in the first position, I scooted my entire hand basically 2 frets. So now I'm comfortable to play out of the C position.
Interesting. And so you're going from an E position to a C position, and now your index finger is covering what the nut was covering down there.
Right, and because I was able to slide into it, my finger naturally positions itself. My pointer finger is naturally at that 4th fret, and so I'm at a place to go.
Now that's really interesting, because I hear the open strings begin to ring.
Yeah.
And so in that particular kickoff, we're going to an A chord, and you're going to use. Okay, so what are those 2 notes that you're playing there?
So this is another beauty of playing in open E. Just going back to that whole concept of having your open strings ring, is when I get to an A chord, I just cross pick it. So I'm going.
Let me point something out to folks really quick, because when we get to the A chord, you may think, well, how do you know that that's an A chord? Let me try to tie everything together. The A chord is the 4 chord in the key of E, right? So
correct.
E, F sharp, G sharp, A. If we're talking in terms of C, that would be C, D, E, F. And if we go down and we make our F chord, then you just simply take those 2 fingers there on your F chord and you move it up 4 frets.
That's right. Exactly.
That's why it's an A chord. I think about, that's an A chord, but I don't have to memorize where all the A chords are. I just think about it in terms of the position. And then once you're up here, then we just know, with a little knowledge of theory, and we can just hear it with our ears, that those open 2 strings are going to sound great. And then what are you doing? You're moving up the neck.
Yep.
Using those different double stop chord positions. And demonstrate with your right hand how you're playing, cross picking through that stuff.
So this mimics a fingerstyle roll. Not a banjo roll, but like a fingerstyle guitar type action, as opposed to cross picking, which is generally...
Yeah, you know what? Let's let's make this a whole video on itself, because I think that this is one of the highlights of what you played in Ginseng Sullivan, and I want to talk about the difference between this kind of cross picking and what people might think about with cross picking.
Totally. 1, 2, 3, 4.